John chapter 7, verse 33. Then said Yahawashi unto them, Yet a little while am I with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. Ye shall seek me, and shall not find me. And where I am, thither ye cannot come. Then said the Jews among themselves, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto disperse among the Gentiles, and teach the Gentiles? I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, and double honors to the apostles and elders, Yasharallah, and salutation to the Akim throughout the four corners of the earth, preaching the truth and sincerity, and keeping the faith of Yahawashi and the gospel. This is Hawa Ya'ala. Just going into this lesson about who the Gentiles are, according to the scriptures and according to prophecies. And, time and time again, it's shown through the Spirit that the Gentiles that being referred to in the scriptures, all right, whether they're referred to as Gentiles, Greeks, or Grecians, especially in the New Testament, is referring to Israelites, okay? And going, just into a few different precepts, and also going to, show, different images, via archaeology through a video that I seen, that was put up, just to kind of give a better illustration of it, to make it plain upon tables, all right, that the people that were called Gentiles in the New Testament that were also prophesied in the Old Testament as well, all right, which is part of the mystery of the Gentiles, are talking about Israelites that had lost, usually their customs, or their nationality and, their heritage, all right, which was given to us, by, Yahweh, Bashem Yahawashi, and we have now received that through, faith in Yahawashi to come back to our nationality and to come back to our law, statutes, and commandments as it is right now. And pretty much, we have a lot of people that are not going to get this. At the end of the day, it's said over and over again, this is for the elect, because really on this side, the scriptures, all right, this Bible that people have around the world, it's the largest selling book of all time. It's only for the elect. And there's a reason why people are so gravitate towards this book so much, whether they hate it or whether they love it. There's an energy that this book brings about that has power, and everybody acknowledges that there's some kind of power that this book has. That's the reason why you have so many people that spend their life trying to disprove, all right, the scriptures, and trying to disprove the prophecies, all right, concerning, the Israelites, all right, particularly those that are called Gentiles in the scriptures, because this is really the breaking point of so-called Christianity. This is where Christianity completely fails at, is the fact that they do not actually have the proper understanding of the scriptures. And this one key area of the scriptures is what completely obliterates and destroys, all right, their false doctrine, all right, that all nations can be saved, and that the man that the world ignorantly knows is Jesus Christ, whose real name is Yahawashi, died. They're saying that he died for all nations, when it's clear in the scriptures that he only died for Israel. Okay, so we're going to get into, a few scriptures, and, at the end, it'll be a video with archaeological proof, all right, of the so-called Gentiles as known in the scriptures being, what we call Jake, all right, that had lost their way, or that had started keeping, the Greek customs at the time, and which is part of the reason why, these devils took out the Apocrypha, all right, back in the 1800s. It was really around the time of the abolishment, I believe, of slavery in the British Empire. Around that same time, they took out the Apocrypha, which basically is like a 500-year gap of time, that, about 300 to 500 years gap of time of the history of what happened to our people, which became, what is known in the history books as being Hellenized, the Hellenization, all right, of our people, okay? And that's part of the reason why you got clowns like Vocab Malone and James White, who basically can go back and forth with this whole issue about who the Gentiles are, because they refuse to believe in the Apocrypha, which was in the scriptures, which is in the 1611 King James Bible. All right, it was also found in Bibles made before that as well. Okay, this is actually scriptures that were taken out of the Bible in order to push this false doctrine, all right, that all nations can be saved, and taking away the understanding. But even within the New Testament, we can still get understanding that it's still talking about Israelites. Okay, so going into this word, all right, for Gentiles in John chapter 7, verse 35, this is the Strong's G 1672. The word there is Helen. Now, when you go into it, it's going to say the biblical usage. It says a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies, right? Because you had basically what you would consider, Greek according to the scriptures that were living not only in the island of what is now known as Greece and those and off of the peninsula of what is now known as Greece, but they lived in other places. They lived in the island of Crete. Right, they lived in Asia Minor, which is a heavy Greek-speaking population, and that was a heavy Greek-speaking population in that place all the way up until the Ottoman Empire. So those areas were basically considered, Greek colonies and, islands and territories. Okay, and then it says, in a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, learning of the Greeks their own. The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship, and that's the key, right? Because these people that say that not Jews are talking about the ones that were not keeping what you would consider the customs of the Jews, right? Whether it be the Sabbath days, other high holy days, going to Jerusalem for the Passover, Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Weeks, whatever it is. These were people that were considered Jews, because when you go into the history, you actually had people that were living in these other territories, all right, that were still keeping the customs, and they would come down, all right, to Jerusalem to keep the high holy days. Okay, so this is referring to those that didn't do it. That's why it says the primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. All right, these were Israelites that worshipped, the goddess Diana, all right, Ishtar, other deities. They shaved their beards, all right. They wore heathen hairstyles like dreadlocks, which you'll see at the end of the lesson. You'll see images of Jakes with baby dreads looking like Chief Keef. Okay, and these are basically artifacts that Esau has in store in his museums. He's taken pictures of, and he admitted that these people lived in these different territories that Paul went and preached to. Okay, so all you Christians, all you so-called Israelites, you ones that call yourself Israelites but say that other nations can be saved because you don't understand who the Gentiles were in the scriptures, you have to explain who are these people in the artifacts, right, that you're going to see. Who are they? What are they in relation to the other so-called other nations, all right, that you actually want to save that cannot be saved? Okay, which we're going to get into salvation as well, which that's a heavy topic, because that's the time we're coming into is receiving that everlasting salvation. All right, now we're going to go further on, and just go into another definition. All right, so I'm going to go here. This is from the Smith's Bible Names Dictionary. Now, you also can find this in the Zondervan Compact Dictionary when you look up the word Hellenist as well. All right, now the word Hellenist, the definition, it says here, Grecian, the term applied in the New Testament to Greek-speaking or Grecian Jews. The Hellenists as a body included not only proselytes of Greek or foreign heritage, but also those Jews who, by settling in foreign countries, had adopted the prevalent form of the current Greek civilization, and with it the use of the common Greek dialect. Okay, so these are people who also, it says again, were Jews that settled in these foreign countries. All right, so here it is, vocab, and I mean, what is this talking about? Y'all don't want to go into this. This is what they don't want to go into. Now, this is something that comes from biblical scholars, higher biblical scholars than either one of them, all right, that put this stuff together over about a century of basically studying artifacts, the language, the history of these places, even admitting that you had Israelites that lived in these different countries that were called Hellenists, all right, and that also adopted their customs as well. Okay, so, and it references in here Acts chapter 6 and verse 1 and Acts 9 and 29, which we're going to get into both of those. All right, so let's go into Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. And in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Okay, so you had here, this was the difference amongst the disciples. You had basically people that grew up Grecians and others that were Hebrews, meaning that they kept the customs, and then you had those that grew up without keeping the customs. And this was always a division in the early part of the formation, right, of what people know as the early Christian church, right, which were all Israelites, which that's what we've been saying all along, that those people back then were all Israelites. And this was part of the schism, the division that was going on, all right, between them, that even during the time when they were getting together, there were still some things that they were growing out of. Okay, which is part of just being part of that one body and putting aside the differences. That's why when you go into Galatians 3, it talks about neither Jew nor Greek. All right, it's talking about these that were either grew up in the custom of the Jews, all right, keeping of the law, statutes, and commandments, all right, and believing in the God of Israel, the power of Israel, all right, Yahweh, all right, and then you had those that grew up as Grecians that were more than likely at times worshiping other gods, okay, which is chronicled in the book of Acts. Okay, so I mean, it's plain and simple, but you got people out there to try and make this thing complicated, okay, because they don't understand the history of our people. And a lot of those people, they're still, Gentiles in their own minds. That's the reason why they don't have the understanding, but this is right here just to hopefully be edifying and also to turn the minds of those that are still confused about this topic, all right, to gain understanding if their ears are basically built to hear. All right, so we're going to go into Acts 9 and we're going to go and start up at verse 26, okay, just to kind of get the understanding of the story. All right, so this is Acts 9 and 26. And when Saul was come to Jerusalem, he essayed to join himself to the disciples, but they were all afraid of him and believed not that he was a disciple. So this is talking about Paul, who at the time his name was Saul. Okay. Now we go further on. It says, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles and declared unto them how he had seen the Lord in the way, and he had spoken to him, and how he had preached boldly at Damascus in the name of Yahawashi. Okay, and so this is basically the story of what was going on. Now you're going to see further on what Paul ended up doing. Okay, and it says, and he was with them coming in and going out at Jerusalem, and he spake boldly in the name of the Lord Yahawashi, and disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to slay him. Okay, so you think that Paul, who got the gospel, all right, and understood that this was talking that the gospel is for the Israelites, that he went and disputed with the Grecians. You think those Grecians were Edomites? You think those were of other nations? These were actual Israelites that were keeping the Grecian customs, probably worshiping the goddess Diana and Ishtar and whatever other mad deities that was out there in that particular time. And he was trying to preach to them that they needed to believe on Yahawashi, and they sought to kill him. Okay? So, I mean, that's plain and simple. That's who he was going to, which brothers have gone over and over again into the series, about, who the Gentiles are and why and how they became Gentiles. Okay? Like we said, you go into the history. For those, do your own research. Look up Hellenization. Okay, you're just gonna go into information about how when the Greek Empire rose into prominence, how they tried to Hellenize the people. This is chronicled in the book of Maccabees in the Apocrypha. Okay, now that's how these people became bugged out. That's how these jakes became bugged out and started worshiping these other gods, man. Centuries later, this is basically centuries of jakes that were Hellenized and that grew up accustomed to the Greekish fashion. Okay, Now we're going to go into the blue letter for the word for Grecian, all right? But this is Hellenistus. It's the Strong's G 1675, and it says a Hellenist, one who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of the Greeks and uses the Greek tongue. So it doesn't say that that person was an actual so-called white Greek, all right, as a lot of people in people's mind think it's talking about. This is talking about one who imitates the customs and worships of the Greeks, which is what Israel was doing. And that's the reason why you got a lot of people that they don't want to go into that Apocrypha, because that Apocrypha destroys the whole lies about who the Greeks were when in regards to the scriptures when you get into the New Testament. Now, here's another one. This is the second one. It says, used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. All right, so that's a cut right there. That lets you know that these people were Israelites that lived in foreign territories, that weren't living in what people called Palestine back then, all right, or Jerusalem or Judea province or Galilee. They were living outside of that area, all right, and they were basically speaking the language or keeping the customs, okay? So you have those that were fluent in the language. You had people like Paul, who was born in Cilicia, which is part of Asia Minor. He actually was fluent in Greek, but he was one that grew up knowing his nationality. He knew he was of the tribe of Benjamin, and he grew up keeping the customs, and he was zealous for the law, and he would come and he would regularly travel down, all right, to Jerusalem, even before he even got into the understanding of the gospel of Yahawashi. Okay? So that's plain and simple, man. I mean, this is right here. Now, if this is not true, what Vocab Malone and James White, what y'all would need to do is you would need to contact the scholars, okay, that wrote all these different Bible dictionaries that have been compiling this information over the last century, and you need to tell them that they're wrong. That's what you would need to do. But you're not going to do that because you're too prideful. You don't want to admit that the scriptures is saying what it actually says. All right? And that's the reason why at the end of the day, like we say, this is only for the elect, man. The elect is going to be the ones that's going to hear this word, and they're going to humble themselves, and the things that they learned, they're going to unlearn, all right? And they're going to learn the true, undefiled gospel, man. Not the GMO gospel that y'all got that has been pushed upon, all right, the masses, especially, our people who are not going to, a lot of them who are not going to even wake up, all right, out of their sleep, okay? So now going into, some of the more prophecies. This is in Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 19. And he says, and I scattered them among the heathen, and they were dispersed through the countries. Okay, so that's why when you go into, again, John, all right, 7 and 35, it says, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? So the dispersed among the Gentiles, which in this right here, those are actual heathen, and teach the Gentiles. Now the Gentiles here are basically heathens in their mind, which were Israelites that were keeping the customs of these same Gentiles that they were dispersed amongst. Okay, so now going back, we're going to read it one more time. This is Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 19. And I scattered them among the heathen, and they were dispersed. There's the word dispersed again. All right, diaspora, through the countries, all right, through the different lands, according to their way and according to their doings, I judged them, because that was part of the curses. When you go into Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, which details the curses, it said that if we were not going to keep the ways, all right, that were given to us, the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to us, all right, by the hand of Moses, all right, that was given down from the Most High for him to give to the children of Israel, that we would be taken captive, fall in front of our enemies, and we would be scattered amongst the different nations. And there we would worship, all right, other gods, all right, of wood, of stone, all right, that neither us nor our fathers knew. Okay, and that was fulfilled. And that is very plain when you go through the scriptures and you go into the book of Acts. You have a situation where you have the one of the people that makes idols his, going into, the situation that we had as the gospel was going, that he was going to be hurting his business because of the fact that people were not going to be worshiping them idols anymore, man. So you had people that were making actual idols of these different gods, and Jake was going and buying these idols and worshiping them. Just like you got Jake going and, even bugging out now and getting into, Hinduism, buying different idols for that. You have Jake that's going into Buddhism. They'll go and buy a Buddhist monk and put it inside their home. So you have Jake's doing the same thing today, okay? And see, the thing about it is the reason why people like, Vocab and Malone can't believe that we're Israelites is because of the fact that they believe that we're supposed to be, on some supernatural level right now. Not understanding the scriptures that we were going to be brought down low and be hated amongst all nations, and we're going to be at the bottom of society. So because they don't see us at top, they don't believe that we're the Israelites. And that's the reason why the Most High is using the base things, all right, of the world to confound the wisdom of the wise, man. That's the reason why y'all's wisdom is getting destroyed by people that you look as a base and a no people, man. And that's how the Most High set it up, man. That's the reason why a lot of these people, they're just going to continue to stumble at this thing. But the elect is gonna receive the understanding and the edification, all right, and they're going to be nourished, right, in these words, man. Now going down to verse 20. And when they entered unto the heathen whither they went, they profaned my holy name when they said to them, these are the people of Yahweh and are gone forth out of his land. Right? Because when we would get scattered, people knew that who we were. They knew that we were Israelites. So even back then, you had people, all right, that especially the Jews that were in Jerusalem, when you go into John 7:35, they understood that those people that were scattered, that were worshiping those other idols, that they were also the people of the Most High, but they were scattered out the land. And some of those that were scattered out the land, a lot of them ended up worshiping those other gods, man. And not only Jake understood that at the time, but other nations understood that even going back then. Okay? Now in the last days, we all became Gentiles. That's part of the mystery of the Gentiles, is that in the last days, we all became Gentiles. So now it's a whole different ball game. So now we're able to fully understand and bring out the mystery of the Gentiles, because we've actually seen the whole side of it, losing our nationality and losing, our power and our understanding, all right, these scriptures, until we had faith in Yahawashi to be given back, all right, all that understanding. Okay. So this is Esther chapter 3 and verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, all right, now Haman, he's an Edomite. In fact, he's of the tribe of Amalek, the head tribe of Edom. Okay. Now this is what he said. There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws, therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Now what he say? There's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom. Now when you go into the beginning of Esther, it tells you that the Persian Empire had 127 provinces. Okay, so that means you had Israelites, all right, that were scattered in all those different provinces. Okay, and when you go into after the split of the northern and southern kingdom, our people were beginning to be scattered all over the world. That's basically where a lot of the beginning of our scattering occurred, was during that split. You had the northern kingdom that was taken into the Assyrian captivity, all right, and then you had the bulk of the northern kingdom pretty much leave there and come over to the Americas, all right, which that's proven. That's something that scholars actually write going back in the 1800s, that they know that the people that are the natives of the Americas are Israelites, and it fits the prophecies that are written in the Apocrypha. Okay, then you also had the southern kingdom that went into captivity starting first with the Babylonian Empire, which was then taken over by the Medo-Persian Empire, which at this particular point, when you get into the book of Esther, the Persians are, in their power seat at that particular time. Okay, so we were getting scattered within all these different empires and kingdoms. Okay, then after that, you had the Greek Empire, that is chronicled in the book of Maccabees. All right, that's a major piece of history that's missing. That's like the missing link, all right, to this whole Gentile issue, is the fact that we went through the Greek captivity. Just by taking that out, that kills a lot of the history of our people. Okay, so now after the Greek Empire, you had the Roman Empire, which that was, by the time Yahushua was on the scene, that was pretty much at the time of the Roman Empire. So we were all through those different territories. When you see the different maps, you can see that our people were scattered amongst some different territories. And when you go into the scriptures, when you see where Paul traveled to and where he wrote his letters to, you can see that it's evident that our people were scattered abroad. All right, that's what it says in James, chapter 1 and 1. All right, to the 12 tribes that were scattered abroad. Okay. Now going into 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away with these dumb idols as ye were led. All right, that's what the definition of a Gentile is. Being carried away unto dumb idols, even as ye were led. All right, so that's what those people were. The Gentiles that Paul went to were Israelites that were worshiping other gods. They were in idolatry. That's what they were doing. And he was getting them, he was going to them and bringing them the gospel, all right? And they were believing on the gospel. And they were turning back, through faith in Yahawashi, all right, to, the Most High Yahweh, all right? And that's what he was doing. He was going and getting all those that had fell under the curses, the ones that were the remnant that was out there, that was dispersed outside of the land, to basically bring them back into the fold. Okay? So going into, his ministry, okay? Because this one of the things that these Christians do, they always try and go into Paul's ministry, but they don't have the understanding of Paul's ministry and why he had that particular role. Okay? Now, when you go into Galatians 2, which I'm going to go ahead and read about 3 verses, starting at verse 7, it's going to break it down for you. It says, but contrariwise, when they saw the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, which is Paul, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. Now, these next 2 verses are going to break down who the uncircumcision and the circumcision are. It says, for he who wrought effectually in Peter the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. So Paul's basically letting you know that the uncircumcision is also the Gentiles. Okay? Now we've already established who the Gentiles are. Okay? Now, so keep going down. It says, and when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace of that was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. Okay, so Paul and Barnabas were given, all right, pretty much the blessing, all right, of the brethren. They all agreed that they should go and reach, all right, the Gentiles, all right, and now he's referring to them that they should go into the heathen. All right, so here it is. You got, 3 different words that are describing the same people. The heathen, all right, because there were the heathens in their mind. They were worshiping other gods. Okay, now the circumcision that Peter was dealing with, those are people that believed in the Most High, were keeping the customs, but they hadn't yet believed on Yahawashi. That's who he was reaching. Okay, so that's how the ministry was set up. So when you go into, should he go into the disperse amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Yahawashi didn't have to do that. He sent, all right, men such as Paul and Barnabas to start off the ministry of reaching those that were dispersed amongst the Gentiles. Okay? So, I mean, it's plain and simple. I mean, we got examples of it even today. Ourselves, before we came into the truth, were considered Gentiles, all right? The uncircumcision of the mind, heathen, keeping, these other customs, all right, of these other nations, all right, primarily these Edomites. All these different holidays that you see here in Babylon are examples of basically keeping heathen customs, okay, that are not found in the scriptures. All right, that's the reason why, just like you had before, today you have Jake that was involved in sports. All right, you had boxers back then, you had boxers now. All the things that you've seen have happened before. There's no new thing under the sun. All right, you also have, people that were singers. Okay, when you go back, then they had singers. So someone like Beyonce, she's nothing more than a glorified street singer. Those same people that had them singing in different amphitheaters and stuff like that all throughout the Greek and Roman Empire. It's the same thing. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Okay? You had street orators. All right? Guys like Jay-Z and Nas and, Drake and all these different rappers, Biggie, Tupac. All those same type of people existed back then. You had Jake talking noise on the street. All right? Basically rapping about how hard he has it. All right? In Asia Minor and Greece. And how he got them centurions trying to basically take him down, right, and throw him into jail on bogus charges and how they oppressing him. Then you had Jake, talking the same type of stuff on the street, talking about how he then came up and now he's, riding in a nice chariot and how he's going to the Colosseum sitting next to Caesar. The same type of stuff that Jake was talking about back then, they're doing it today. It's the same people, it's the same spirits coming back. Then you have Jakes today. We call these Jakes that are in fraternities and sororities, we call them Greeks. Here it is. You got all these Jakes that go to college. They go to church all the time, and you're going to read about the Greeks in the scriptures. But then when you are in college, you got people that were in all these, fraternities and sororities. And what were people calling them on campus? They were calling them Greek. Why? Because they were keeping a Greek custom, wearing Greek letters. They were doing all the same stuff that the ancient Greeks were doing, all right? Going into all manner of debauchery, throwing parties and doing wickedness. The same type of stuff. Okay? Heck, you even got a Jake that's a basketball player over there in Milwaukee Bucks, right, by the name of Giannis. And his parents is from Nigeria, but he was born and raised in Greece. And his nickname is called the Greek Freak. Okay? So you got examples today, but people want to act like they don't see those examples. But really it's because the Most High has blinded them from not actually seeing some of the same exact things that they see every day in their daily life. And they can't put two and two together. They can't put it together even though it's made plain upon tables right before their eyes. All right? So, hey, again, this is just kind of going into, who are the Gentiles in the New Testament, all right? The Gentiles in the New Testament are Israelites, all right? So hopefully, again, this is edifying, and of course, stick around, watch the video of the artifacts, all right, of these different people, all right, of the people that were called Greeks and Gentiles, all right, in the New Testament, and hopefully, this is edifying, for all the brethren out there. We're almost out of here, man. The gospel is going to stand strong. It's going to keep getting stronger and stronger, right? The more and more that these scoffers, these doubters, all right, and our enemies, all right, keep coming against it, you're just going to basically make it stronger and stronger, and you're just going to get, completely broken and destroyed. All right, so again, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahawashi, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Yasharallah, and salutation to the Akim throughout the four corners of the earth, preaching the truth and sincerity, and keeping the faith in Yahweh and the gospel. Shalom.